Uh, Fiend is incredible. I want to say that.
Oh, thank you.
It's masterful, I would say, actually.
Oh,
Like most of your books are masterful. But it is I was kind of left like it feels it felt perfect. Like it just feels so polished and so crafted.
thank
Um
you so much. That's
yeah.
exactly how I want people to feel when they finish
I
the
mean,
book.
I hope I assume they'll also see that. I was also like super excited to read a book that's not a historical horror novel from you. That is like a modern setting that you're not kind of constrained to, I know you're not necessarily entirely constrained to historical facts, but something that you're more free to roam. I really appreciated just that. I was just like, what is she going to do when she's not tied to a time period, a specific setting, and just specific people and stuff like that.
Well, thank
Um,
you for saying that because I'm sure other people are wondering too.
yeah, I think that's the big thing. I mean, like you've made your name with historical horror, and it's great. It's all great, but this is a little different tact. My first question is, I don't know, it's I guess relatively broad, but is the thing that stands out to me, and it speaks back to that level, the polish and the craft in it is the perspective characters. We have the three perspective characters, the children of this family, and it's a little bit of a trick because it's really not three perspectives. It's more like six perspectives because you also have them in the past as true children. Even though there is this, I think there is a little bit of that. Yes, they're adults now, but there still is that because of the fact they're not in charge, that they're still underneath their father. They're still infanticized in some ways. They're not given that idea of full control.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is, I don't know, a little bit nuts and bolts, but how did you decide to when to switch perspective characters? When to jump back and forth in time? Was that a clean process or did that come through in editing?
Well, it was clean for me.
Okay.
One of the things that really surprised me in writing this book was how easy it was. And I think part of that is just because, I've been doing this for 15 years now. This is the ninth book. Um, and, I try very hard to learn as I go along, to build on, um, to take lessons from every book. And so I'm happy to say that I think in this case it paid off. I'm not saying that every book has been that easy or clean, but this one really was. And I think I wrote it first without the children's scenes, but it
Okay.
became very apparent that in order to understand how they got to where they are today, that you had to see them as they started out. Because, I don't believe that anyone's born evil. I think there's things in your life that shape you, and certainly family is a big part of it. From my own experience, I learned that I had a very difficult family, shall we say. I love it. I'm sure if anybody in my family sees this podcast, they're not going to be happy. But, um, and I'm a senior now, so it took me a long time, but I learned lessons from that. And these are the kind of lessons that I carried into this story. That if you're not aware of it, you're going to continue to be shaped by your childhood, no matter how old you are.
Yeah. It is I'm honestly that like that's even more impressive to me a little bit because it feels like there is mystery is a very important part of the book about this slow doling out of information, and it's very well, like very subtle and very well hidden about like what is the true nature of the characters, the true nature of the titular fiend, the true nature of what it is. I'm going to try and dance around spoilers.
No, it's
It
hard
I mean, it's
talking about.
fine. It's fine. People, hey, people, this is me telling, if you're listening, go get Fiend. It is out. By the time this podcast is out, it is out in the world. You should go buy it. It's worth your money. It's a great read.
Thank you.
And I mean, like, also just, I feel like my attention span has gotten worse and worse over time. And this book, I read it in 2 sittings. It's like captivating, really captures your attention. And my next question is kind of related to that. In my only concern, I'm not really concerned for, I guess, for me, but in even as a writer, this is a concern of mine. Sometimes it's likable characters,
Right.
about attaching, like giving some, and this is a question I ask a lot of people, a lot of other writers. I'm like, does that concern you? Because all three of the prospective characters, I did empathize with them, which is, I think, a statement to the writing, but it is also, I was going in like, well, we're following, this in wealthy, this empire of family that owns this business, and they're cutthroat, cold-blooded, and they are, all three of them, all of them at times are awful, but I still really did attach to them in different ways. But was that a question to you as you're writing? Oh, I need to make them more likable, I need to do something that humanizes them, or is that just more of a, this is the story, this is how it has to be told?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And like you said, for all writers, it's a bit of a concern, especially since we've been through, I'd say, 20 years of being hit over the head with, oh, you've got to have likable characters, you've got to have sympathetic characters. This was, in some ways, for me at least, excuse me, a test, because part of what the book is about is, I believe, we are finding ourselves in this time, um, as a society where greed is becoming good again. And we tend to pay attention to the wealthy. Like if you look at books and movies, there was a great article in The Atlantic a little while ago that said, television is really just starting to be focused on the very wealthy. And the kinds of shows that would have gotten made 20 years ago, like Roseanne or Married with Children, don't get made today. It's like only wealthy people are worth, our gaze. And I would even extend that a little bit. All around us, we're seeing these absolute train wrecks of rich people doing terrible, terrible things. It's out in the open, and it's almost like nobody cares, or they only care to point a finger and say, "Oh, isn't that terrible?" But they can't stop looking at it, right? We can't stop following stories about Elon Musk or, Steve Bannon on
There's a
social
million,
media.
I literally, I mean, you say that, there's a million examples right on the top of
Yeah,
my head. Yeah.
a million examples. So this was sort of a test for me. Yes, these people, it's like a terrible car accident, but I hope I wrote it in such a way that you just can't stop looking, even if you don't like them, partly because they deserve something bad and you want to see if that's going to happen to them. But going back to the chapters of them when they were younger, that's also part of the humanizing thing.
Yeah.
You see how they started out, and then you see how they become, and everybody changes over the course of the that transition. Darden kind of starts out as a spoiled brat kid that you don't like, but then once he is
Learns.
read into the family secrets, he
Yes.
changes. And the other two also undergo sort of twists, although, like Maris, in the opposite direction. She starts out as a good girl, like a lot of girls. All we want to do is be good. We want to make our parents happy. We want to get patted on the head and, as a reward. And that never changes, but she goes from, sort of being innocent to not being innocent. And she willingly gives up her innocence, all in the pursuit of trying to make her father love her.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's also a part of it. Like again, there was that doubt of like, there's always, and I think, whenever I'm reading anything as a writer, I'm always like, there's a second part of my brain that's like, how did they do that? What is like
Yes,
that meta, like, oh,
me
yeah,
too.
I'm following the story, and it's, oh, I'm really entertained, but it's also like, oh, well, these characters are really awful. Like, it's interesting. I'm like this question of like, oh, but I am connecting to them. I think it's, and a lot of it is, I think, that family connection, that
Mm,
because we all have a family, we all have gone through these process of like, yeah, well, I want to please my dad, I want to make my dad happy, and I'm not in a billionaire uh 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 family empire or whatever of import export, which again, I think, you leaving the nuts and bolts of, again, the business, actual business isn't the story. Like, who cares what the actual business is? They make lots of money.
right.
Exactly. They've been around for a very long time. which is generally all that it seems like that is the true case for a lot of big business empires.
Right.
They
You don't
just
really know what
existed.
they do, and
Yeah,
so we'll believe what they say.
yeah,
"Oh, I was
exactly.
innocent. Oh, it wasn't me."
It wasn't me. I mean, but it is that connection to family and where they're like all the three members of them are all connected to this I feel like they have to oblige. They have to obey their family. They have to do what their bloodline is. What and I think because you place so much importance on that, it really connects to me and to any reader. Where it's like that's why they do a lot of things. That's why we do lots of things. Anybody does. You're connected to your family.
Yeah. And imagine the pressure in a weird family like that, like you said, because there's the wealth and the inheritance factor. And they are just it's almost a cliche because you say it described about books so many times. This family has secret. This family has a secret, like
Yes.
a world changing secret. And they've
Yes.
kept it for 1,000 years. Imagine the pressure
Yeah.
to be
I
the,
mean,
the next one, right? The next heir, and to get that secret and to know by the time you're read into it, you're already complicit and there's no way out. And like it or not, you've got to carry this horrible, horrible weight on your shoulders.
yeah.
It was so
It's
much fun devising.
I mean, it is, but I mean, that even the idea of like, oh, you have to have an heir, you have to birth, what an heir and a spare. I
Yeah.
highlighted that early in the story. Like even my own, I don't have any kids. My dad, it was a question since I turned 18. It's like, when am I getting a son, Robbie? When am I getting a son? I'm like, sorry, Dad. my, my the books I write, that's the best you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Um,
Us too. It's the dogs. Those are your
yeah, I
grandkids.
was gonna
Behave.
say, yeah, my sister has kids. But it's the thing. But the thing is, the question of like, well, it has to be a man, right? It has to be a male, and that's like again, like that really hit home with me. Was it has to be a man? You're like, why?
Do
Why
you
does
get
it have
you
to
get that?
be?
The reason I'm asking is I sort of felt like that was definitely true in the generation I grew up with. But I'm older than most most horror readers for that matter even. And so I was a little concerned that that would seem too in the past. But
Oh,
some people have said, no, no, there's still a lot of cultures where the emphasis on the male and male lineage is very important. And so I'm curious, so you felt it too
oh,
in your
of course,
family?
yeah. I mean, my dad was. I still get it. I am. Me and my wife are basically past the age we're gonna have kids. Like it's not gonna happen. And my dad's still like, I want a male son. I want it, and it has to be, our last name. It can't
Yes.
be my sister. She's married, she has kids, but they're not going to carry our last name. And I'm like, why does that matter, Dad? Like what? Like again, and it's not like we're not royalty. Like it's again where it's not. There's not even this onus like in the book of like, oh, we have a big and like you make clear parallels to royalty and to this business empire, which is it's they've made American royalty references to all to oligarchs and stuff like that for centuries, but it's that it's the same pressure. It's that same like, oh, you have to be it has to be a male. It has to be your last name. And I'm like, why? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like, and I'm like, I don't know. There are cultural and like, I think there are certainly of my dad's generation. It was, this
Yeah.
is all you have. This is what you're passing on, and I don't know. I think that was a big pressure put on him, and therefore
Right.
he passes it on to me. Which again, a lot of the question of curse or blessing is also in the book about the thing they carry, and it is that generational curse, the passing of that. It's not in like some of
It's
it
true.
is just pressure and knowledge aside from the entity, which I
Yeah.
I won't go too hard on too heavy into the details,
Right.
but
It's hard. It's really easy to spoil this book for people. But you make a great point, and that is part of what I wanted to raise here, although I kind of raise it in the whole um, framework of a patriarchy having to yield to a matriarchy, is that how do you decide when the burdens, the rules of another generation apply or no longer apply to you? You know, do you have to bend the knee, or is it time to sort of resist? And I think most people would say in the current age, it is time to resist those kinds of things, at least in the West, right? But the mere fact that someone might push back on you and say, no, it has to be a boy who's going to carry your name, doesn't it sound ridiculous in this day and age? Just like saying somebody has a diabolical entity at their, you'd laugh at them. If Elon Musk came out and admitted,
I
oh, I have
mean,
every, I'm sorry?
if Elon Musk said that he had a fiend, I'd be like, starting to make a little bit of sense. Like,
Right. It's adding up. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, part of the reason I came up with the whole idea was just looking at what was happening around us and how obvious it was, right? That this person is lying, this person has stolen, this person has cheated, and yet where are the consequences?
yeah.
I started to wonder, would you have to see like a devil spring up beside the person in a, burst of smoke in order
I
to
know.
say, hey, they're guilty? Well, let's write a story about that.
Exactly. I mean, it is. The thing I'm working on now is not the same, but it is also exploring, evil entities in politics.
This is the year of demons, I gotta say, 'cause there's so many demon books coming out, so come on in, the water's fine.
I know there's lots of. It's in the zeitgeist. It's in the air. And this is, I guess, a connected question to this. So the characters are doing awful things. The family does very awful things, and Zeph is, it seemingly amoral at times, and like even flaunting the fact that it has nothing. The morals and ethics are meaningless. It is, does it benefit the business? Does it benefit the family? And that's the question, right? And if it's worth, what consequences am I going to face? It's nothing to do with, oh, will people die? That doesn't matter.
But don't you feel like that's kind of the time we're in right now?
Oh yeah, of
The only
course, yes.
question is, what is good for me is good.
Yes. I mean, and
And
that's and this is it's this question is kind of in like the book though, like it doesn't feel judgy. The book isn't like I mean this in a good
right.
way. Like like it is exercising restraint because your perspective characters are your perspective characters. I don't get, it's very easy. It's not hard to say, oh, you shouldn't, be killing people. You shouldn't kill whistleblowers. Like that feels like that's a very easy judgment to make. But the book itself,
Low bar, yeah.
yeah, it's a very low bar. But the book itself doesn't feel like it's judging even, and like how much touch did you wield on that? Like keeping the basically the character's perspective on that level of like never exercise. Like I think, what Nora, she is like, we're doing awful things, we're doing awful stuff, but even that, the prose itself doesn't feel like it's judging the characters a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Well, that was totally a choice, right?
Yeah.
Just imagining what the world was like, not only for these three adult children, but the people who work for the company and everybody who comes in. And that's from seeing very powerful people up close. Their worlds often are just bubbles where people don't dare say the truth to them. And so after a while, it becomes easy to convince yourself that your perspective, what's good for you is good, is the truth. So, yeah, the fact that most of it is reflected through the children's eyes, well, the adult children's eyes,
Yeah.
Nora, without giving away too much, she's really sort of playing a role. She's sort of walking the line. But it was to show you just how completely deluded this family is, that they really have lost all touch, right, with the kind of ethics and morality that the rest of us would struggle with.
Yeah. I mean, it's also that and I think it's tempered with a thing that keeps coming back, loneliness, which is
Yes.
which I think, again, echoing back to keeping characters empathetic. It's like, well, we've all been lonely, and when I would applaud you because you made me feel bad for Zeph, just for a second. I went,
Wow.
I mean, you did, like, because it's like, it is when he's wilting a certain, basically and like you get so few peeks into I guess, behind his mask, right?
Yes.
He
In
always
control.
has, yeah, always in
Yeah.
control. So when you do get those very few peaks, and then he's like, that moment where he talks about how lonely it is, and I went, do I feel bad for him? I do. I do feel bad. Like, just for a moment, you're like, oh, it is, and like, I can't imagine, it is a lonely life. It is, like, but it is like that tempering of, oh, well, it's lonely because he has chosen to pursue this. He doesn't
Right.
have to, and I think that's the push pull of the whole book is like, they don't have to do any of this.
Right.
They can stop easily.
Right.
They have all the wealth in the world. There's no
What
need to keep going.
right. What more do you need? What really surprised me was when my editor expressed sympathy for Zeph. I think she felt I was a little too hard on him in places.
Oh.
But I did
Oh,
hold the
no.
line because
Yeah.
he he's all about control. He cannot let it slip for a minute. A terrible thing might happen if he does.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I
but
mean,
until I don't spell it out.
I was gonna say, I also really appreciate the fact that that became a part of the story of this anger, of a masculine anger, like, because it is, again, echoing my own father. Like, I love my dad; he's great, but he had anger,
Yeah.
and he passed that on to me. Where I have that inexplicable, like, why am I so angry right now, right?
Yes.
And it's like, and coming back to, like, it's not necessarily just me; it is how I was raised, how
Right.
you're taught as a man how to react to situations, is to tap into anger, and the fact that I think another reason I don't know, sympathize with Zach, but
Yeah.
empathize with him at times. It's very much like utmost control, utmost keeping up the mask of the
Yeah.
entire, as much as he can, even though he is a terrible person, has
He
done
is.
horrible things.
But,
But I mean,
I kind of feel like we're in an age of male anger. Like we're in this age of what I call angry daddy. Look at politicians when they're on TV, right? And they get confronted. And rather than explain themselves or show any emotion, they go into angry daddy mode where they yell and their face gets red. And they do that to make people back away, to try to wrestle control of the situation by scaring people away. And that may work to a degree in business or politics, but it doesn't work in a family. It
yeah,
drives away the very thing that you probably really want as a person, that bond and that connection, to be close to your loved ones. I'm of the generation where fathers never said, I love you, never were warm or anything like that, right? So, that's what I drew on to portray this family where I wanted to show the impossible situation that those kids were placed in. They're lied to all the time. They're told family first. Whatever you do, you cannot betray the family. At the same time, they're told business first. Whatever you do, you cannot get in the way of us continuing the business. Well, which is it?
yeah,
you know? And I think it's obvious to the kids which it really is.
yes.
Business
Well,
first
it is until, I mean, I don't, again, spoilers, but there's
until
the
right.
until,
Until
but there's also this, I think, as conflated, I mean, Maris and her love for her father, and the fact that she isn't she has conflated love with making good business decisions, and
yeah.
doing, and obedience, and submission and dominance and things like that. And it's like, I think, again, that is the entry point into all these characters, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
family, that connection. Um, we're running out of time for this segment. I could talk to you this book forever. Fiend's great. If
Thank
if we
you.
haven't sold this, if we you out there listeners, we haven't sold this book to you yet, you should go buy it. Here, Robbie's suggestion.
Thank
Um,
you.
it's time for the second act, which is just more questions, but these are broader, a little, less correlated directly to Fiend. Even
Okay.
though I do have
I love talking about crafts, so that's fine.
good, excellent. I do too. That's why, I mean, one of the reasons I have the start of the show is, so this question is from our last guest, who's V Barhampton, and she knew it was you. And so I'm going to ask you a question for our next guest as well. I'm gonna circle
Ooh.
back around. I'll tell you,
Okay.
it's John Langan,
Oh,
another master, which I'm also incredibly excited to talk to him. But this question is from Vicky, who she writes her most recent book, Rotting Room, which we discussed, is historical horror. So she asked you, I think she's picking your brain a little bit. How do you handle bringing in accurate history? What kind of research do you, and how many liberties do you take? So I think it's that balance of how do you write accurately to a historical period while still being able to tell a story and craft it the way you wish.
yeah, that's a great question. I've thought about this a lot over the course of the three historical horror novels I write, and I ended up sort of changing how I do it because of it. So the first one, The Hunger, which was a reimagining of the story of the Donner Party, was super close to the history because it had to be. I was following the wagon train. The whole thing was well documented. As a matter of fact, my primary research book actually followed the wagon party day by day and broke down the things that happened and pulled in a lot of secondary and tertiary information and accounts to buttress all that. And I 99% of the characters in the book were actual people. But after I wrote it, I felt kind of bad because even though it was a story that was used the Donner Party as sort of a jumping off point, it was its own story, and it needed to have characters do certain things that weren't true to history. And I felt kind of bad about it. As would say, it's not bad enough that I was a cannibal. You had to make me, an alcoholic too, or something like that. So the second book, which was The Deep, and that was about the sinking of the Titanic, that was scarier in a lot of ways because the Titanic has legions and legions of very dedicated fans who will freak out if you are inaccurate in any way, shape, or form. So I had to draw on history a lot for this. But again, keeping in mind the story and the demands of the story on certain characters, I ended up making more completely fictional characters among the main characters. So there
Okay.
was a mix. And by the time I got to the third book, The Fervor, which was about the internment, Japanese internment in America at the end of World War II, it's mostly made up characters. And the whole premise, while it draws on what was happening historically, the whole premise was completely made up,
Right.
mostly made up.
Right.
The
It's
horror element,
over time you've let go of
yeah,
more of the truth, so to speak,
yeah.
to
And the thing
give
is,
yourself
is
freedom.
yeah, when you're writing historical, in a way, it's like walking around with a rollator, those things that elderly people do to help them walk and make them balance. It's like this framework that you can hang on to, and it's very comforting in a lot of ways. But but also it can be a little restrictive. Really, I think as a writer, what it comes down to is the story you want to tell. Unfortunately, there's some people who enjoy historical horror that think of it as like a documentary with dialogue added to it. And that is one kind of historical, but it's not the only kind of historical fiction. And it goes all the way to the other extreme, which is, alternate history, where
Right.
you come up with a completely different ending, right? What if Hitler won the war? What if
Right.
Superman, was a Nazi? Those kinds of things, which I don't write. But yeah, so it's just something that the writer, I think, needs to be very clear to themselves about at the outset of the book and then
Right.
go accordingly.
Know what you want, know what you
Mhm.
need, and let that guide you. Yeah. Um so I'll come back around at the end of this for your question for John Langan.
What
Okay.
am I
So
going to ask John?
I mean, I give it could be anything. It can
Okay.
be bookish, can be writing, can be broader, whatever you'd like.
Okay.
Um I have my list of questions. What's a word you hate?
A word I hate.
Yes.
Well, all words are good and bad, depending on the situation.
Okay.
I'll tell one stupid story.
Sure.
When I was at CIA as an analyst, one of the things analysts do, or we write the briefs that will go to the president, right? And that's when it's a very serious issue and it's hit a point where, you really either need to warn or they need to make action, they need to come to a judgment of some kind. And I had and those things go through 8 levels of editorial. They are harder to put out than a book, I'm telling you. And you can imagine why, because
Yeah.
it has to be perfect, right? Nuance cannot be unclear, has to be brief. There's a whole framework for how you write them, even. And I had a branch chief who was looking at this brief that was going to go up, and he said he wanted to use the word niggardly. This branch chief was African American, and he just wanted to poke at the editorial staff on the 7th floor, the last level before it gets into the president's briefing book. And I'm like, do you have to? Do you really have to use my story to
To do
make your
that.
little point?
Yeah.
But he wasn't going to release it unless we had the word in there. So he did. And sure enough, they came back
Don't use
stomping
that.
all over me. Why
Yeah.
do you need to have this word? Sometimes you can end up being an innocent bystander getting mowed over by an 18-wheeler just over one word.
Pet Cemetery. Uh, it's the next question. Let's see. What's the best piece of advice you followed?
Ooh, God, so much advice. I don't know that I followed. I mean, I find that this business is, you just have to take it at face value. It's not going to change for you. So that's on the business side. On the writing side, probably, read a lot, read widely, don't just read in your own genre.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have to develop that analytic mindset, which is kind of a shame because then reading for pleasure becomes very difficult. You're always turning on
Yeah.
the analyst in your head.
Becomes
That's how
homework.
I know it's a good book, is if I haven't turned on that analyst in a while.
I mean, I was about to say the exact same thing. It does turn it into homework sometimes.
Yeah,
But when a book is so engaging and captivates you, and you aren't thinking about, oh, how did they write that character? Oh, what trick did they use here? You're not thinking about the mechanics of it. You're
yeah,
like, oh, this is truly special. You are
yeah,
truly like it transports you back away again, back to how I felt when I was a child reading. Like, oh, it
yeah.
takes me to another
Yes, it's
place.
rare for me also because I was an analyst for 35 years. So I have analyst brain on everything. It's really hard to turn it off for a book. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Who's a writer more people should be reading?
Oh, goodness. Well, one is Greg Galloway. I was just thinking about Greg this morning. I met him at Storyfest, which is a pretty much yearly festival at Westport, Connecticut, put on by their library there, which is it's a great event. If you're anywhere near Westport, you really should be going. But I met him there, and he actually started out as a poet, but he writes like noir now, and he's so good. He got me to blurb his most recent book, which is Just Thieves, I think is the name of it.
Just
It's around
Thieves.
here somewhere. I should have pulled it out. But he just writes so well. Well, he's a poet. You'd think they'd be able to really. I admire that sort of elegance, which in mathematics is when you do an equation, in the most condensed form, but it still works, right? And that's kind of how he writes. He's a very elegant writer in that respect.
I'll put a link to that in the show notes for anybody want to
Awesome.
go find Greg. I use this also as a whenever I ask other authors, I'm like, who should I be reading? I'm going to go read that book. It's always,
That's
and
great.
again, it's even better, I think, when I get recommendations outside of horror, because
Right.
I have so many horror books that are on my list, but when people are like, oh, this is a noir book, this is a crime book, this is a mystery, this is whatever, I'm always like, because you have to, again, when you said read widely, I 100% ascribe to that as well. Okay, this is a little tangent. Maybe I don't know if it applies, but I've heard this question on another podcast. I was like, I need to ask people this question. What's the strangest videos served to you in the algorithm?
Ooh, that's an interesting question, mostly because I really tried to wrangle the algorithm. So some folks know this, but for I spent about a third of my career in emerging technologies, and I was like the first senior analyst for the intelligence community to look at social media to help them figure out if there was intelligence value in it. So in the mid knots, right, I was down there with some of the best researchers in the world. My nickname was the algorithmist. So I really try not to let it just go nuts. Like even to the point where I kind of get after my husband if he watches too many weird things on YouTube, because then it'll just keep feeding us this bullshit, right? So yeah, that's a really hard one. Sorry, nothing really comes
That's
to
fine.
mind.
That's fine. Here, I'll tell you something. One of mine.
Okay,
I get card jitsu videos in my algorithm.
what's that?
Well, jujitsu, martial
Yeah,
arts, grappling. There is a offshoot where people do that in a car.
isn't
And
that just demolition derby?
no, the car's stationary.
Oh,
Two people, two people in a car. They sitting in the driver's seat and the passenger seat with a seatbelt on, and then the match starts. And you're allowed to use anything in the car, as like you can grab people, you can wrap a seatbelt around somebody to try and choke them out. If you
oh
push them
my
out, if
goodness.
you push them out of the car, I believe you also win. But I didn't. I have one friend who's really into jujitsu, and I'm pretty sure that's why it bleeds over
Oh,
into
okay.
my algorithm. But I'm like, what on earth? I don't.
I'll
I'm
tell
not a
you,
martial artist. I don't really. I don't watch MMA, so I don't know. But card jitsu is one of my very
I've
strange things.
never heard of that. One thing I'll say, although this was a few years ago, and it won't surprise anybody now, but it surprised people then. But I knew this is happening. You know, your phone is always listening. Um, So one night I was playing video games very late at night, and it'll throw ads in there every once in a while. And there were ads for mortuary gurneys. And the only way it could have known is if like somebody was deep packet, searching my emails or my computer or something, because of course there are, mortuaries
Yeah.
in my stories. And that was just really weird to see flash across your screen at midnight.
Are you
Like,
interested in a mortuary gurney?
how did you know?
I'm
But that continued
absolutely.
for
I'm in the market for it. Please.
right.
Uh,
Yeah, so that continued for a few days, but nothing would surprise me now. We'll go to a party, somebody will talk about the last place they went on vacation, and by the time we go home and we turn on the TV, boom, that's what's being served up in YouTube.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Targeted advertisements. Um, what's a book that rips out your heart?
Ooh, that's a tough one because I don't think about books that rip out my heart much, but I really love sad books. I grew up in the era where you didn't have to have a happy ending, where it wasn't supposed to be uplifting or whatever. All heroes were anti-heroes, and your heart was just going to get stomped on. So, I don't know. I'd have to think about that a little bit.
Okay. You don't have to answer. It's more about
Okay.
these are all just to provoke.
Okay.
Um, do you have a question for John Langan?
That's so hard because I respect John so much and I want to say something funny, but I couldn't. Um,
You can say something funny. He'll know it's from you.
again, gosh, I wish I had known this in advance. Did you tell me to do this in
No,
advance?
I like to spring it on people. I want you can. I will allow it if you can think. If you want like a few minutes to think about it, I could email you in like tomorrow or whatever for a
Oh,
question.
the only thing I can think of is probably too general of a question, and that is just does he have a specific approach that he takes when he is developing a story? I don't want to say it as easy as are you a pantser or a plotter, because no matter which one he does, I'm sure there's still a lot of subconscious, you know, structure that's built into how he decides to approach a story. But he's such a marvelous storyteller. I'm sure he's got some golden tidbits he could share
Okay.
with us. He is
Well,
so
I'll phrase it. I'll say exactly what you just said, and I'll ask him. Which because you asked that question, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I also want to know John Lang. I would also like John Lang to tell me about that. Um, that's it for the second act. It's time for the it's time for blood.
Ooh,
It's time for
okay.
blood, which is about trouble. It's about struggling with either a work in progress, whatever you're working on now, or something in the past, be it Fiend. You said Fiend was very easy, so probably not Fiend, but anything in progress that you're having trouble with, or something in recent memory.
Well, the thing that I'm struggling with more is less about craft and process and more about career. So
Okay,
I don't know if that's something you
that's
want to get
I
into.
no. Let's talk about it. Let's go.
It's right now we're going through a really rough time. I've been a professional writer for 15 years now, and it's always tough and it always evolves. But for me personally, it's hit a rough patch, especially with horror. I'm really proud to be a horror writer. I think right now the genre is doing super well. It's really grown. There's so many really talented writers who have been drawn to it, people who are getting the opportunity to express things they really care about now because it's a little bit more accepted as a genre, I would say.
Yeah,
But it skews younger, I think, than a lot of other genres, and it's incredibly diverse. But as an older person, especially an older woman, lately, I've really been wondering, like, is my time almost up in horror? Can I still write things? I mean, I believe I can write things that are either relevant to a broad set of writers or entertaining to a broad set of writers. But so much of how an audience finds you has to do with their perception of you. And I'm not saying this is only true of readers or even readers. It's just baked into society that we want the next hot thing. We want to go with what's popular, and that's usually a younger person. It's usually a handsome person. um, that debate's been around since I started writing. Do you have to be good looking to be a bestseller? Many articles arguing that people that would not be good looking by Hollywood standards, mind you, but by writer standards, they're very good looking, right? Like Michael Chabon, that sort of thing. When he was younger, that's what they said about him. Oh, is he only popular because he's handsome? You look at him today and you think, what a silly question. But
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a as a consumer. I am not typical. I feel like that's all I have learned over time is like I am not a typical
you're not
consumer. I'm not a
right.
typical consumer. I
And,
will.
and in all honesty, a lot of people, especially in horror, that's true. They're not, and so they may find that insulting. But here's the thing where it ties back to business. Publishers, like I've always been published by one of the big five, they're interested in numbers.
Yeah.
They want to sell to as many people as possible. And so while your numbers might be more than respectable for an independent press, something like that, especially over time, I've noticed those numbers become more and more important. And I just don't know how to break into a larger audience. I would hope that a book like Fiend will do it, but I have been seeing a few comments from, pre-publication reviewers, whether it's on NetGalley or Edelweiss or something, saying, "Oh, it just it I couldn't get I wasn't sympathetic with any of the characters, so I put it down." The average reader wants those sympathetic characters. The average reader, if they see you're a woman writing, they want you to write about certain people, right? They don't necessarily expect you to write about someone who's mean
Yeah.
and evil, even though they read a bunch of, psychological suspense or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just it's definitely not a craft thing. It's a business question. Just
Yeah.
at what point will I know when it's time to go?
Time to go.
I
I
know.
don't. You can't go. We need you.
That's very kind of you. But
I'm
everybody goes
serious.
some.
I'm serious. We need you.
Oh,
Uh,
you're so nice.
I mean, it's true. This is it's part of the I don't know. That's I again why I like horror a lot is because it has at in this point in time, it's grown so much and has uh, this incredible range of perspective
Yes, it
and
does. It's
of
fabulous.
and that is a feature that like including someone like you where like your background is so interesting. You worked for the CIA. You did a you came and talked to our HWA chapter about AI, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that. But it's just like having someone who has all this knowledge and is so intelligent and so smart, but also so masterful at the prose and telling stories like this one where I'm couldn't be more excited for a book where when you said, I think you told I didn't know about Fiend until you did that talk and you're like, hey, I have a book coming out in like 6 months or something and it's going to be my first my first non-historical novel in a very long time, horror novel in a long time. And I'm like, oh wow, I'm immediately like, I want to know what that is. I need to know. But it's like that. I don't know. It's I have myself had this like publishing crossroads where I don't have an agent. I've been trying to get one. It's impossible. Uh,
It's hard. It's hard. It's
yeah,
getting
and
harder.
that's what I was at a publishing thing on Sunday or a literary thing on Sunday, and I was talking to other people kind of in my same boat, and they're like, it's harder than it was even 6 years ago. I'm like, oh no, don't tell me that. That's awful. But it's like it there is, and it's but it feels like it's echoing to people at every level where it's not whatever you're publishing, however you're publishing, it's only getting harder.
Yeah,
It doesn't like it's not easy anywhere. It's not there's pressure. Again, this pressure.
yeah.
You gotta
And
sell more, you gotta do more.
part of the reason why it's hard too to get to break in is because the publishing industry doesn't know which way it wants to go. And in my 15 years, it's always been like that.
Yeah.
But, they've been caught in, there's a lot of, challenges from emerging technologies hitting them. Now, when I started, it was ebooks. They were just starting out. There was this huge fear that it was completely going to disrupt the publishing industry. It didn't quite, but it did shake things up. And it's arguable whether or not you would say the publishing industry rose to that challenge or just sort of hid in a corner until a lot of it passed, and
Yeah.
we're kind of at that crossroads again for them. But in general, we've been looking at the digital disruption of media now for 20 years. It's continuing, but it has shaken out quite a bit. Again, a lot of businesses didn't really adjust to it very well. So it's all the business pressures that are making it harder for, I think, agents to know what to pitch, what's going to sell, what do they want next. It takes at least 18 months from a manuscript to make it to publishing. So, they're trying to project forward. It's funny, in some ways, you think it would be easier because there's so many more entries into it. When I started, it was very narrowly focused, but now you have like, pitch fests online for agents and editors. There's so many more events where you can actually talk to professionals in publishing. There's more imprints, there's all this stuff, and yet it's harder. They
Yeah.
don't understand.
I mean, I think I think we all have to kind of make peace with it's all chaos and luck and we're all trying our best and try and write a good story and hope and that will carry us somewhere. Um
Well, that's the thing though, even when it gets you to the next step, it doesn't become logical. It's still chaos
yeah.
and luck. It's so much luck in publishing, whether or not you're going to succeed. And even if your publisher knows what success looks like, I mean, before your book comes out, you can ask them, what would success look like to you? And they can't tell you because it's a moving target. As soon as
Yeah.
they get a little success, they want more and more and more, and that's good in a way, but it's bad in a way because you never know what you should be aiming for.
Yeah. I mean, I don't I don't I can't. I can't fathom a world where I don't get a new Alma Katsu book every
Oh, you're
couple of
so
years.
kind.
I
But
mean, it's true. I don't want I think I don't know. I definitely I don't know. I thought like if you started writing like I know you write espionage and like spy thriller whatever you want to call it as well. Is that how is that experience different from the horror books? Is that
sorry, I just need to keep an eye on the time.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, I've got you.
okay, thank you. Um, they're easier. I mean, because that's what I did for 40 years, right?
Right.
So it's very easy for me to see a situation on a newspaper and figure out like how would the intelligence community react to it? How would the president react to it? Policymakers, all this stuff. It's very easy for me to write. Right now, I'll just give any of your listeners are interested in writing spy thrillers, don't, because the market is very soft and
Okay.
it's super hard to sell one right now.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and that's the other thing too. A lot of times you just don't know. You want to write a book because it's a story that's important to you.
Right.
And we have to it's changed a lot. I mean, I sold my second book just yapping across the desk to an editor, right? The editor who had bought my first book. Nowadays you have to do proposals. Sometimes you have to do 50, 100 pages before they'll consider it. For the second Red book, Red London
Yeah.
spy novel, I think I went through like 8 proposals before they hit on one that they wanted to do. So yeah, it never stops being hard.
Very uplifting. We're
But
uplifting all the people listening.
everything that's worthwhile is going to be hard. If it's
Yeah.
easy, you're not
No.
putting enough into it
Yeah.
anyway.
Everyone would do it if it was easy.
Yeah, everyone would
Everyone
eventually.
do it if it was easy. We don't have any more time. Alma, tell people where they can find your book, where they can find you. Plug anything you want to plug.
Okay. Well, you should be able to find Fiend just about anywhere.
Yeah.
The best way to follow me is to subscribe to my Substack because, as we all know, social media algorithms do not consistently push out information on the people you follow. So just go to Substack and look for me, my name, Alma Katsu, Almakatsu, and subscribe, and that would be awesome. And I do write about, right now, of course, I'm in the pitch mode for my book, but I do write about a lot of other things like, I reflect on writing as a business and my career, and occasionally I'll put out a tech something on tech because I was a tech futurist for the intelligence community for a long time. Believe me, I find that hard to believe too. Um, but I do have thoughts occasionally on a disruptive emerging tech.
I will put a link to your Substack in the show notes as
Thank
well. People
you.
can find that. Yeah, everyone should listen to you. You're a very, very smart person.
Oh, thank you.
That's what I always say. I'm like, yeah, you're a great writer, but you're also just super sharp, super intelligent. Which, yeah, of course,
Oh,
you're an
that's
analyst for the
good.
government, all that stuff.
That day's gonna come when I'm not anymore, though. When I'm, yeah. So just
uh, Fiend was a great book. Everyone should go get it. Alma, thank you for joining me.
thank you. This was so much fun.